Hi guys, this is a response video to DTGtaihojutsu. Rick, his video on the shuto, or the knife hand. Okay, when we start talking about shuto, and we start talking about the primal things, we're talking about gross body movements, we're talking about these types of tactics. Okay, the shuto was designed to be used when you're, especially in wartime and for soldiers, when your adrenaline is so high that you cannot do the fine, delicate motor skills like getting a wrist lock on somebody. If your adrenaline level is that high, and Sensei Rick did a video on that a long time ago, he couldn't even get a key in the door when his body was, using as much energy as it was because his adrenaline level was so high. So the only thing you have at that point is large muscle movements. You'll have this type of a movement, 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 you'll have these big, large muscle movements, which, from the way that I have taken from a lot of different arts and added it into my own, that's where my style, or my personal style, really shines, because I use these very large, aggressive, big body movements because I'm a big guy, one, and they flow better for me, but it also, it works with my adrenaline more than against it, okay? So that's something to understand. The other thing that I want to touch on real quick is, I saw on the comments for that video that there was a discussion of palm up, palm down. Look, fact of the matter is, I don't care how your palm is. Whether it's up or down, doesn't matter, because it won't change the effect. Let me go ahead and illustrate that for you. Okay, water jug, right? Palm down. Boom. You heard the smack? You saw the effect, right? Palm up. Boom. Saw the effect, saw the demonstration. Any difference? If I use that same effect and I chop at your neck, or at your temple, or at other various sensitive areas of the body, it's going to cause an effect. I don't care if my palm's up or down, it doesn't matter. It still is going to have that effect. So we have to understand that. So don't get into the hype. It's one here, one there. Either way, if it goes to a specific area, your opponent's toast, essentially. So now that we've gotten into that, I want to show you a few things that I use it for, and just modifications to the shuto, or the knife hand. Now, to understand the knife hand and to understand the shuto, you have to go back into the ancient history of jiu-jitsu and of judo, okay, and of this whole, basically how the samurai used and the ninja used these types of combat arts, okay. They were trained primarily with a katana or a sword or a stick, right? So they were their body was already used to the movements, right? When I was teaching with the sword defense, their body was already designed and used to those movements. So their way of learning how to use their empty hand blended with and was the same motion that was used for a weapon. So let me illustrate that for you. So I've got my handy little knife that I made for my wife off of my long to short video. Okay. Perfect example. It's got a tanto blade, well, a tanto-ish blade, that would have been reminiscent for the type of blades that they would have had at the time as a utility knife. Okay? So let's examine this. I'm cutting with the edge. I'm cutting with the edge of the knife. I'm cutting with the edge of the knife here, and I'm cutting with the edge of the knife here. So notice I've made an X here and an X here with the edge of the blade. Now, let's take the blade away. Okay, I have no blade now. So now I'm going to use the edge of my hand. Cutting an edge here, cutting an X here. Okay? 1, 2. Alright, so now that we understood that and how it evolved from knife to knife hand, that's why it's called Shudo. That's why it's called knife hand. Knife hand. Knife hand. Okay? Knife hand. Got it? Okay, cool. I have to get into this so that people will begin to understand, because there's a lot of hype out there about this type of thing. So this is my way of answering that. Okay, so now let's go into a few techniques and how it can be used. If my opponent is throwing a punch to my face, he's doing one of these, right? So he's going to throw a punch to my face. Remember what I was teaching you about the nerve plexus in the arm? There's one here, pretty much anywhere in between the bone and halfway between the joint and another joint. There's usually a nerve cluster, and in fact there is a nerve cluster, and there's also nerve clusters at the joints themselves. Okay, so that gives you 1 place to hit, 2 places to hit, 3 places to hit, 4 places to hit, 5 places to hit. See what I'm saying? Any one of those. Hit any one of those. Anyway, when that punch is coming, I'm going to step, right foot, angle. I'm going to angle my body. I'm going to use the Shudo. And I'm going to try to hit the elbow, inside the elbow, or the forearm, so I can get that hand out of my way. So I can just go, and knock it out of the way, okay? Now, understand, yeah, I know, I closed my fingers a little bit. It's similar to a Kempo type strike. But I'm still using this knife hand area. So to me, it's still a Shudo, okay? So, you know, it doesn't matter how my fingers are at. It matters what I'm striking with, okay? I don't care how my fingers are. I care about what I'm using to strike. Now, depending on how I use my fingers, that can strengthen that area. I'm not getting into that. That's beyond the scope of this video. What I am doing is I'm teaching you to move offline of the attack and to smash that arm, okay? So I go, bam! I smash that arm out of my way. Then I'm going to come across. And I'm going to come across to the neck, okay? I could show you exactly how and where to hit the neck, but because of the CAVA thing, for this video, and because I'm not sure how much Sensei Rick would accept me teaching lethality techniques, in and of myself, in and of my channel, I'm cool with it, but, you know, I'm a part of a bigger whole, so, you know, I'm not going to teach the exact minutia of the killing strike. Understand, though, that when I hit that neck, it does have all the potential in the world to be lethal. It's the same technique that I've been teaching with the knife. It's the same cut and then come across. Knife, hand, knife, hand, hand, knife, hand, knife. Same thing. Boom, boom. Okay? Something else that I want to make sure that you guys understand too. The Shudo doesn't have to be used as a swinging this way. It doesn't have to be used that way. It can actually be used not only as a swinging here, but after I've hit that arm, I'm just using this as an example, normally I would come across here, okay? If I blocked or I parried that arm off to the side using my hand this way, okay, so now I'm moving backwards. I'm blocking and redirecting by getting out of the way, alright? I'm not knocking it out of the way, I am now removing myself. I'm displacing myself away from that threat. I am taking myself out of that threat, okay? If I do that, now I've got this hand cocked. It's already here, okay? So now all I have to do is step forward with my right foot and shoot it to the side of my opponent's neck, okay? So now in this way, I can use my knife hand, or the edge of my knife hand, not only as a chopping, but one of these, right? And if you catch the neck right with that, it'll cause quite a bit of problems for your opponent, okay? That could be a lot of problems, okay? A lot of problems. I'm going to leave it at that. So, by getting out of the way and bringing the shuttle this way, okay? So not only can we chop with it this way, but we can also punch and slice with it. And incidentally, it's the same movement from a reverse grip if I was to slash this way. It's the same type of movement, only I don't have the blade. I'm just using the back of the side of my wrist. Something else that I want to get into too is the shudo and the ridge hand, okay? The ridge hand is just simply the other direction. It's just simply using the other side, okay? So if I'm using, that's the last defense of going here, okay? Now instead of going straight in with the shudo this way, I can use the ridge hand and go this way, okay? This will be the same movement as when I was teaching with the internal flow video, where I was showing this type of movement, okay? That's what this is, only I'm using the ridge hand now. Only I'm here, okay? And the thing is that using the ridge hand, I'm striking with this part of the wrist. Now, is it as strong as this part? No, it's not. But if I am very careful, or if I'm careful where my targets are, that's what I'm going to use. And if I'm in a life or death situation, and I have an opening for this, before I would have an opening for this, I'm going to use this. Even if something happens and this part of my arm isn't as strong as the other one, but it still gets the job done, it's worth it. Even if I fracture this part of my arm, if I'm in a life or death situation, I would much rather have a fractured right wrist than be dead.
I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your time. Defend your homes wisely.